Here are 15 of the most controversial movies from the 1960s, known for pushing boundaries in terms of sex, violence, politics, or religion. These films often sparked outrage, censorship, or bans, but many also became landmarks of cinematic history. Psycho, 1960, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, is one of the most controversial and influential films of the 1960s. Its controversy stemmed from several groundbreaking elements for its time: graphic violence, including the famous shower murder scene, unexpected nudity, and the shocking early death of the film's apparent protagonist, Marion Crane. These elements defied the norms of Hollywood's production code and pushed the boundaries of what was acceptable in mainstream cinema. The film's portrayal of psychological horror and its suspenseful storytelling had a profound impact on both audiences and filmmakers. It challenged censorship rules and changed the way violence and sexuality were depicted on screen. Psycho is widely credited with popularizing the slasher genre and influencing countless horror movies that followed. Its mix of innovative narrative techniques and taboo subjects sparked debate and controversy but ultimately cemented its status as a cinematic masterpiece that transformed the horror genre forever. Peeping Tom is a British psychological horror film directed by Michael Powell that became one of the most controversial movies of the 1960s. The film centers on Mark Lewis, a cameraman who films his victims' deaths as part of his twisted compulsion. Its explicit focus on voyeurism, psychological trauma, and sexual violence was shocking for audiences at the time. Unlike typical horror films, Peeping Tom explores the dark relationship between the camera, the viewer, and violence, blurring the lines between observer and perpetrator. Upon release, the film was heavily criticized and condemned for its disturbing content and themes, leading to widespread bans and harsh reviews. This backlash effectively ended Michael Powell's mainstream directing career for many years. Over time, however, Peeping Tom has been reassessed by critics and is now considered a pioneering work in the horror genre and a profound commentary on cinematic voyeurism and audience complicity. La Dolce Vita is an iconic Italian film directed by Federico Fellini that became one of the most controversial movies of the 1960s. The film follows a journalist, Marcello, as he navigates the hedonistic and decadent lifestyle of Rome's elite. It paints a vivid portrait of moral decay, excess, and existential emptiness amid the glamorous but superficial high society. The film's unflinching depiction of debauchery, casual sex, and the emptiness behind the glitz shocked many viewers at the time. La Dolce Vita was especially controversial for its critical portrayal of religion and religious symbols. Scenes involving the clergy and religious rituals were seen as disrespectful or blasphemous by the Vatican and conservative groups. As a result, the Vatican condemned the film, and it faced bans or heavy censorship in several countries. Despite the backlash, or perhaps because of it, the film became a landmark in world cinema, influencing filmmakers and audiences alike. It captured the tensions of modernity and morality, challenging traditional values with its stark social commentary. L'Avventura is a groundbreaking Italian film directed by Michelangelo Antonioni that sparked significant controversy upon its release in 1960. The story begins with the mysterious disappearance of a woman named Anna during a yachting trip, but rather than focusing on a traditional mystery or search, the film shifts to explore the complex emotional and existential lives of the remaining characters. Its slow pacing, minimal plot resolution, and ambiguous narrative frustrated many viewers and critics expecting a conventional story. At the Cannes Film Festival, the film was famously booed, with audiences confused or angered by its unconventional style and perceived lack of dramatic action. However, L'Avventura challenged traditional storytelling by focusing on mood, atmosphere, and the alienation of modern life, themes that were largely new in cinema at the time. Over the years, critics and filmmakers have come to recognize it as a revolutionary work that helped usher in modernist cinema and influenced generations of directors worldwide. Viridiana is a provocative Spanish-Mexican film directed by Luis Buñuel that caused major controversy upon its release in 1961. The film tells the story of Viridiana, a young nun who visits her estranged uncle and tries to bring charity and goodness to the world around her. However, her idealism clashes with the harsh realities of human nature, resulting in shocking scenes involving sexual violence, degradation, and moral decay. Buñuel's film openly challenges religious dogma and features explicit anti-clerical themes, including a notorious scene that parodies the Last Supper, which was considered blasphemous by the Catholic Church. Because of its critical portrayal of religion and its dark view of charity and virtue, Viridiana was banned in Spain under Franco's dictatorship and condemned by the Vatican. Despite the backlash, the film won the Palme d'Or at the 1961 Cannes Film Festival and is now regarded as a masterpiece of surrealist and political cinema. Viridiana remains a powerful critique of hypocrisy, faith, and human cruelty. Lolita, directed by Stanley Kubrick and based on Vladimir Nabokov's controversial novel, stirred widespread debate upon its release in 1962. The film tells the story of Humbert, a middle-aged literature professor who becomes infatuated with a 14-year-old girl, Dolores Lolita Hayes, eventually marrying her mother to be closer to her. The central theme of underage sexuality, even though toned down from the novel, made the film highly controversial. At the time, censorship standards in both the US and the UK were strict, and Kubrick was forced to heavily modify the script, downplaying the sexual content and increasing the girl's age to avoid being banned. Despite these changes, the film was still considered provocative and immoral by many critics and religious groups. Some theaters refused to show it, and it was banned or censored in several countries. Though it divided critics, Lolita was praised for its dark humor, James Mason's performance, and Kubrick's careful direction. Today, it remains a disturbing and complex examination of obsession, manipulation, and moral decay. The Manchurian Candidate is a political thriller directed by John Frankenheimer, released in 1962 during the height of Cold War tensions. The film follows Raymond Shaw, a decorated Korean War hero who has been unknowingly brainwashed by communist agents to become an assassin. Using psychological manipulation, his captors plan to use him in a plot to subvert American democracy through political assassination. The film's chilling portrayal of brainwashing, paranoia, and the threat of internal political sabotage made it highly controversial at the time. It questioned American patriotism, trust in authority, and the stability of democratic institutions, sensitive subjects during the Cold War. Its release just a year before President John F. Kennedy's assassination intensified its notoriety. After JFK's death in 1963, the film was pulled from circulation by the studio and remained largely unavailable for over 2 decades. Despite, or perhaps because of, its disturbing relevance, The Manchurian Candidate is now regarded as a classic, known for its bold political commentary, suspenseful storytelling, and prescient warning about power, propaganda, and manipulation. The Exterminating Angel, directed by Luis Buñuel, is a surrealist satire that critiques the upper class and organized religion. The film follows a group of wealthy guests who attend a lavish dinner party but mysteriously find themselves unable to leave the room afterward. As days pass, their refined manners deteriorate, revealing the fragility and hypocrisy of bourgeois values beneath the surface of social decorum. What made the film especially controversial was its thinly veiled allegorical attack on the upper class and Catholic rituals. Buñuel, a known critic of the church and authority, inserted subtle yet provocative symbols throughout the film, suggesting that both the elite and religious institutions are trapped in cycles of self-deception, dependency, and moral failure. Upon release, The Exterminating Angel was banned in several countries, including Francoist Spain and some Latin American nations, due to its subversive themes and anti-establishment tone. Despite censorship, it became a landmark of avant-garde cinema and is now celebrated for its bold narrative, surrealist imagery, and biting political critique. It remains one of Buñuel's most influential and intellectually challenging works. 8½ is a landmark Italian film by Federico Fellini that explores the inner world of a creatively blocked film director, Guido Anselmi, as he struggles to begin his next movie. Blending reality, fantasy, memory, and dreams, the film creates a surreal, nonlinear narrative that mirrors Guido's fractured state of mind. As he wrestles with past relationships, artistic pressure, and existential doubt, 8½ becomes a deeply introspective look at identity, creativity, and the chaos of the artistic process. Upon its release, the film was controversial for its unconventional structure, sexual imagery, and open portrayal of the protagonist's moral and romantic confusion. Critics accused Fellini of self-indulgence and excessive abstraction, while some audiences were bewildered by its dreamlike logic and lack of traditional plot. Despite early criticism, 8.5 gained acclaim for its groundbreaking style, psychological depth, and visual innovation. It has since been hailed as one of the greatest films ever made and a defining work of modernist cinema. Its influence on filmmakers worldwide is immense, and it remains a key exploration of the struggles of creation and the human condition. The Pawnbroker is a groundbreaking drama directed by Sidney Lumet that delves into the trauma of Holocaust survivors and the harsh realities of urban life. The film centers on Sol Nazerman, a Jewish pawnbroker in Harlem who struggles to cope with his painful past and emotional numbness after surviving Nazi concentration camps. His detached and cynical outlook contrasts sharply with the suffering and racism he witnesses daily. The film was highly controversial for its frank depiction of Holocaust trauma and its unflinching portrayal of racial tension in 1960s America. It was also one of the first mainstream Hollywood movies to show female nudity, which challenged the strict production code that governed American cinema at the time. This nudity, combined with the film's heavy themes, led to censorship battles and limited initial distribution. Despite these challenges, The Pawnbroker is praised for its raw emotional power, powerful performances, especially by Rod Steiger, and its pioneering role in expanding the boundaries of what Hollywood films could address both thematically and visually. Repulsion is a psychological horror film directed by Roman Polanski that explores themes of sexual repression, mental illness, and violent breakdown. The story centers on Carol, a young woman living in London who experiences a terrifying descent into psychosis while left alone in her sister's apartment. Her fears and repressed desires manifest as hallucinations and violent outbursts, blurring the line between reality and nightmare. At the time of its release, Repulsion was controversial for its candid depiction of mental illness and sexuality, topics rarely addressed so directly in mainstream cinema. The film's unsettling imagery, disturbing sound design, and portrayal of psychological horror challenged audiences and censors alike. Several countries banned or heavily edited the movie due to its intense scenes and themes. Despite the controversy, Repulsion is now celebrated as a classic psychological thriller and an important early work in the horror genre. Polanski's atmospheric direction and Catherine Deneuve's haunting performance have been widely praised, making the film a powerful study of isolation, fear, and the fragility of the human mind. Faster, Pussycat. Kill. Kill is a cult classic exploitation film directed by Russ Meyer that gained notoriety for its bold depiction of aggressive, sexualized women in a male-dominated genre. The film follows three voluptuous, tough, and unapologetically violent women who terrorize a desert town, engaging in kidnapping, seduction, and murder. The female characters challenge typical gender roles of the era by embodying power, sexuality, and dominance, which was shocking for 1965 audiences. The movie was controversial due to its mix of campy violence and overt sexual themes, combined with women who were not victims but perpetrators of violence. Many critics initially dismissed it as trashy or exploitative, and it faced censorship issues for its provocative content. However, over time, Faster, Pussycat. Kill. Kill has been re-evaluated and embraced by fans as a pioneering feminist cult film that subverted traditional stereotypes, inspiring later filmmakers and pop culture. Today, it is celebrated for its bold style, iconic characters, and influence on both exploitation cinema and female empowerment in film. Blow Up is a groundbreaking British-Italian film directed by Michelangelo Antonioni that became highly controversial upon its release in 1966. The story follows Thomas, a London fashion photographer who believes he may have inadvertently captured a murder on film. As he obsessively enlarges, or blows up, his photographs to uncover the truth, the film delves into themes of perception, reality, and existential uncertainty. Blow Up was one of the first mainstream films to feature full nudity, which sparked censorship debates and moral outrage in several countries. Its open portrayal of sexual freedom and ambiguous narrative challenged traditional filmmaking and audience expectations. The film's existential tone and refusal to provide clear answers about the murder upset viewers seeking conventional storytelling. Despite the controversy, Blow Up became a landmark of 1960s cinema, capturing the spirit of the swinging London era and the cultural shifts of the time. It won the Palme d'Or at Cannes and influenced countless filmmakers with its stylish visuals and exploration of the elusive nature of truth. Bonnie and Clyde is a landmark American crime film directed by Arthur Penn that became one of the most controversial movies of the 1960s. It tells the story of Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow, notorious bank robbers during the Great Depression, portraying their violent criminal exploits and passionate relationship. The film shocked audiences with its graphic and stylized depiction of violence, including gunfights and executions, which were far more explicit than typical Hollywood films of the time. Critics and moralists condemned the film for glamorizing criminals and romanticizing their lawlessness, fearing it would encourage antisocial behavior. However, the movie also resonated with younger audiences who identified with its rebellious spirit and critique of traditional authority. Bonnie and Clyde is often credited with ushering in the New Hollywood era, where filmmakers embraced realism, complex characters, and anti-establishment themes. Its innovative editing, dark humor, and raw violence influenced countless films and filmmakers. Ultimately, the film's controversy helped break down censorship barriers and expanded what American cinema could explore. Midnight Cowboy is a groundbreaking American drama directed by John Schlesinger that became one of the most controversial films of the 1960s. The story follows Joe Buck, a naive Texan who moves to New York City aiming to become a hustler, and his unlikely friendship with Ratso Rizzo, a sickly con man. The film openly explores themes of male prostitution, homosexuality, poverty, and urban decay, subjects rarely depicted so frankly in mainstream cinema at the time. Its candid portrayal of marginalized characters and adult themes led to the film receiving an X rating from the Motion Picture Association of America, usually reserved for explicit adult films. Despite this, Midnight Cowboy was critically acclaimed and made history as the first, and only, X-rated film to win the Academy Award for Best Picture in 1970. The film's honest look at loneliness, desperation, and friendship challenged social norms and censorship standards. Midnight Cowboy remains a landmark in American cinema, celebrated for its raw emotional power, compelling performances by Jon Voight and Dustin Hoffman, and its bold social commentary.